Hi everyone, I'm Vladislav Novikov, and today I'm joined by Andriy Dobriansky, Director of Communication at the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Andrei, hello, nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you again.
Yeah, so let's start. Trump and Putin finally meet. What do you think, Andrei? Has America become great again yet?
No, and since the so-called summit was supposed to be a listening session, since Friday, there have been a lot of reactions from the White House, from Trump himself, and that tells us that Trump has seen enough negative reviews of what happened on Friday that he himself is unhappy with what happened. The meeting with Zelensky and European leaders will be an opportunity for him to maybe change that perception. But he is putting out truth social after truth social over the weekend, expressing for most people who know him the fact that he's upset. He doesn't like the fact that people thought that Alaska was not worth it, that it was a failure on his part, and that really, from the eyes of an American, America saw this as a Putin event and not as a Trump event, and that hasn't happened during this administration. Maybe during the first administration, people could control Trump 1.0, but this was not Trump 2.0. Trump 2.0 tells Canada, I'm going to give you 80% tariffs. China, I'm going to put 150% tariffs. He has no problem talking about any leader, insulting them, whatever. Here, it's not just he didn't insult; he barely said anything. He spoke for 3.5 minutes. So the response hasn't been positive. The most positive things that people have said on the right wing television channels has been that there was a very impressive flyover for 90 seconds of the B-2 bomber. Also, they pointed out that the red carpet was longer for President Trump than it is for Putin. And that's the only good things that we heard about this meeting. So he is going to have to do a lot of work to, if he wants to show that he can actually have a success here.
Yes. And we have one more interesting news. Trump, Zelensky, and the support group. Sorry, I mean the coalition of the willing.
Yes.
Yes, that's something new. But does Zelensky really have much of a choice here? Can this support group help push Trump toward a better peace deal?
It's not just the support group, it's really even the actions of the Kremlin. Why is the Kremlin attacking civilian positions, not just yesterday, overnight, so that this could be discussed in the White House today? They can point out the picture of the 1.5-year-old girl who was pulled out of the rubble in Kharkiv. They can also the attacks were happening during the meeting with Putin and Trump in Alaska. He was attacking Ukraine. Ukraine was under an air alert during that meeting, and Trump knew that. And this is a way for President Putin to get under his skin. I would say, lastly, another thing that President Zelensky and the European allies can bring up is we congratulate you, President Trump, on the peace negotiation you signed with Azerbaijan and Armenia. Do you know that Azerbaijan's oil depot in Odessa was bombed last night by Russia? So there are many things that even the Russian side is giving as an excuse for Trump to increase sanctions. And we've heard this not just from President Trump, not just members in Congress after the Alaska meeting. There's been a renewed push to have Congress recognize Russia as a terrorist state because of what's happening against Ukrainian children during these negotiations. So Putin himself is hurting himself by all these actions against the United States, against Azerbaijan after the peace deal. There are many things that Putin is doing to make the situation worse for himself.
By the way, there are reports that Melania handed Putin a letter
Mhm.
asking him to stop killing children, and yet he did it again today.
Mhm.
That's got to be humiliating for Melania and for her husband. I mean, who still sees Putin as a good guy in a bad situation.
And also, Trump, even today on Truth Social, said that this isn't my war, this is Biden's war. This is not my war, I didn't start it. Well, the war in the last 6 months of 2024, there were less bombings on Ukraine. the situation was different. The increased attacks on civilian points against children, 40% more children casualties just in the last 3 months. And last month was the worst civilian casualty month since May of 2022. All of these points point out to President Trump that he can say it's not his war, but it seems like the war is getting worse since he became president. So what are you going to do about it, President Trump? There are a lot of options on the table with sanctions, with increased weapons to Ukraine. What is going to happen? Maybe if the European leaders are gathered together, maybe they're going to announce something about the frozen Russian funds. Maybe that's something that they can announce. But definitely, since Alaska, it's only been Putin that's been getting a victory in the media, especially with his dominance in the Russian media.
Yeah, and let's try to dive into peace deal. This feels a lot like the rare earth agreement. Trump drafted it poorly, yet pushed Zelensky to sign for just a photo op. Now he's demanding peace, but on what terms? Is this going to be another deal that look good on paper, but means surrender in practice?
Well, a lot of the narrative about this deal has come out from the people who were involved in the meeting. So we know that Russia, first and foremost, was the first one to put out information to the United States media. The White House was not talking to the United States media in Alaska. So the American journalists could only get information from the Russian journalists, but the journalists aren't journalists. They were just propagandists for Russia. So as of Friday, the narrative was dominated by the Russian perspective. Then after the fact, we have this idea come out from the three Americans who was there. Two of them were on television all day yesterday, Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff was talking about NATO and Article 5, and this is a man who was surprised that Hamas lied to him when he was negotiating with Hamas. So we don't know what Witkoff is talking about. Marco Rubio tried to say, hold on, everybody, stop. We are in the first steps of having a negotiation with Russia. We are not even at the point where we're doing anything. We're listening now. So if that's the perspective of the one serious person in the room, it doesn't matter. I mean, Trump can demand things, but in terms of the actual negotiation, there are 1,000 miles of border that would have to be discussed on a very small centimeter by centimeter perspective. We know how long it took to figure out what happened with Minsk, and we know what a disaster that was with Debaltseve. We by announcing a piece on the map without discussing what's actually on the ground. And then lastly, we still have constitutional issues to talk about if that were to come. So whatever Trump wants very quickly to show that he fixed things, unfortunately, there's no practical way that that can happen. So I'm glad that Marco Rubio, on every single television news station he appeared on yesterday, said, we are just at the beginning. I'm not here to discuss the actual details. We are just listening. And then we're going to talk about the different options with Ukraine. But this is just the beginning.
Yeah, and we have one more guarantee. I talk about Budapest Memorandum, and what? Nothing, nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, JD Vance will be there, and we all know how things tend to go when JD Vance shows up. So, are you expecting a new scandal?
It's possible, of course. This is what everybody's worried about. Any kind of scandal, what Zelensky is wearing, what what have you. But JD Vance,
They will do in public.
no. Actually, the schedule has no press conference today. The only thing that they have is a group photo, and maybe people will be yelling during the group photo, like they yelled at Putin, "Are you going to stop killing civilians?" Right? But there is no press conference for either the Europeans, Zelensky, or Trump. That's not on the schedule. But there is an interesting thing about JD Vance. Yes, he he doesn't know diplomacy. He doesn't know the world. We know he watched videos online, so he knows Ukraine. But Vice President Vance is the only one who's running for election in 2028, not Trump. So JD Vance has to figure out politically what he's comfortable doing. Does he want to be included in the negotiations to show that he is somebody experienced on the world stage? Or does he want to stay far away apart from any deal that happens because he has to not just win the popular vote, he has to first win the Republican MAGA primary in 2028. And so therefore he is in a delicate situation. I think he's in a delicate situation today, trying to figure out how much he can be involved in it and how much he wants to be so far separated that he can say, well, I had nothing to do with that. That was Donald Trump. I didn't agree with him. He wanted to do that. I wanted to let go of Ukraine, just like you MAGA people and Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to do. So that'll be interesting to watch for Ukrainians, understanding that there's a political future for JD Vance, and what does he value more, becoming president in 2028 or being a part of this discussion?
And one more thing about JD Vance, he knows Ukraine from the Google Map, uh, and we can continue. So, Andriy, some experts say Trump may try to shift all the blame for the war not ending, and even for the pleasure Putin gets while still killing people, onto Zelensky.
Yeah, I mean this is good. This has been the narrative from the beginning, because he does not know how to confront President Putin, and or the so-called President Putin. American taxpayers paid $2 million so that a bomber and 5 airplanes flew overhead for 90 seconds. Only somebody who doesn't visit the front line thinks that's scary to Putin, right? Putin has seen planes over his head. Donald Trump does not go visit the front line anymore. He doesn't know anything. In terms of how that affects people, so America taxpayers wasted money on jets flying overhead. They wasted money on preparing filet mignon for President Putin. But in the end, what President Trump said he was going to get, 1 hour before he walked out of the airplane, he was talking to Fox News, and he said, "If I do not get a ceasefire deal, I'm going to be very disappointed." And he did not get a ceasefire deal, and he's had to try to convince the American public that he maybe got something better. But in the end, all he got was listening to President Putin, who said, "No, no, no, no ceasefire. I'll give you my deal. This is much better for you." So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but if Zelensky refuses to sign what's basically a surrender, will Trump just walk away and blame Ukraine for everything?
Well, if it were that simple, I think it would be easier for President Trump. But again, what is the timeline for this? When do they sit down and discuss the 1,000 miles of Ukrainian border front line with Russia? When do they put in a referendum to change the constitution? When do they? There's so many things to happen to make this a final deal that Trump can't just say, "Oh, I fixed it," because even if he announces he fixed it, there's still, at the very least, there needs to be a national referendum. That takes months to organize, and who knows how the Ukrainian people will vote for this. How will you have them vote? Are you going to have displaced people vote from Europe and other parts of the world? There's lots of questions in terms of how to address the final solution. And so Trump can't just say, "I fixed it today. It's all done. Zelensky, listen to me." What needs to happen is something more incremental, which is, I think Europe today will say, we are still convinced that we need to see a ceasefire for us to be working with Putin. So 1 week, 2 weeks, put something on the table, Putin. When you go back to talk to him, President Trump, something has to happen with the ceasefire, or return some children. Ukraine put a list of 339 children. Do something to demonstrate you're interested in having a peace deal. Because if he can't do just that, if he can't even order a ceasefire for a week or return a couple of hundred Ukrainian children, then how is Trump going to convince the world that Putin is serious about a peace deal?
Yeah, it's totally true. But some say the UK is telling Zelensky to not and smile at everything Trump says.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Is that really the best strategy?
I think that, again, I go back to what the enemy gave President Zelensky to walk in with. He can show a picture of the 1.5-year-old girl from Kharkiv. This is the person you're negotiating with. Also, this is why I'm dressed like this. It's a danger lobit. I'm in mourning for the Ukrainians who have died because Russia attacked me. And oh, by the way, Azerbaijan's oil depot was hit in Odessa. these are the things that he can smile and say, yes, Mr. Trump, yes, Mr. Trump. Oh, and by the way, these are happening every day. How are we addressing this? And I don't think Trump has an answer for that yet. His team does. His team knows that there's a bill in Senate and Congress ready to go, 500% tariffs. There's additional legislation ready to go for increased aid to Ukraine that will pass overwhelming support. So Trump has options. It's just, when can we finally convince him to punch back at Putin even a little bit, to demonstrate to Putin that we're serious about this. We're not taking baby steps, because so far Trump's strategy has given us more attacks on Ukraine, 27,000 in the first 6 months of ballistic rockets and bombs, as opposed to 11,000 at the end of 2024. Increased civilian deaths, increased drones every month. This is Trump's war now.
Yeah, but here in Ukraine, we don't understand this situation, because Trump do all this thing not for Ukraine, and maybe not for US, but many things for Russia, and we don't know what expect in the next step.
Yes, I mean, but America also doesn't know what to say about what happened in Alaska, and I think over the course of this week, we're also going to see, Trump was elected. I keep making a difference. Trump 1.0, Trump 2016 to 2020. That's one version of Trump. Trump 2.0 is very different. We've seen how he insults Zelensky in the Oval Office, the president of South Africa. He tariffs everything. He's controlling everything. He just announced that he's going to take over the police department in Washington, D.C. He can do whatever he wants, except for with Putin. And I think one thing that is going to be a reaction is that he won the popular vote this time, not in 2016. He had more people vote for him. And who voted for him? A lot of young men that listen to podcasts, that are very independent minded. They were interested in a different approach to things. Those people were not happy when he bombed Iran. We know that about 30%, 30% of this new people who support Trump were not happy with continuing what the United States used to do. They thought Trump was going to be different. This, with what they saw in Alaska, I think I'm going to be listening to American podcasts this week. I'm going to be listening to Joe Rogan, to Andrew Schultz, to Theo Vaughn, these podcasters with millions of followers, mostly young men. And what is their reaction to see the American president, to see American soldiers on their knees in front of the Russian plane, to see the American president afraid to even speak at the press conference? He spoke for 3 minutes. I think it's going to be very interesting. And this is a domestic American political issue for Trump. So this will be one thing that will influence what Trump does later. But at this point, I think he's already gotten enough feedback that he knows that he came off very poorly in Alaska.
But I mean, here in Ukraine, we don't have minds about a chance for Trump try to attack Putin or show his power. We don't believe in this. I don't know. In America, maybe you see people look at this and think. So yeah, we're waiting for aggressive Trump, for Putin. Maybe here.
The thing with the Trump administration, or Donald Trump, he's a very unique political character, is with Biden or other presidencies, George W. Bush, Obama, we can work step by step and go push, 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 closer, closer. Maybe you give us aid. Maybe you give us something else. With Donald Trump, he can change his mind very quickly and order things very quickly. That's what makes the Trump administration very different than any other administration. So even as we say everything that any Ukrainian would logically think, well, of course he's listening to Putin. President Trump is listening. He's going to do whatever Putin wants, or etc. Trump is also somebody who changes his mind very rapidly. Remember what happened with his relation with Zelensky. Either you can talk about the Oval Office, you can talk about September of 2024, when President Zelensky came to thank the American workers who were putting weapons, and all of a sudden Tucker Carlson made it a scandal. Within 2 days, Trump was meeting with Zelensky, and there was no more scandal. Same thing with when he met with North Korea. Remember, in 2017, he was making fun of the leader of North Korea. He was saying he was Rocket Man. He was making fun all the time. And then he changed his mind very quickly and invited him to 2 big summits, at the end of which nothing happened. He had one big summit in Singapore, President Trump and Kim Jong-un, and then they had a summit in Vietnam. And in Vietnam, there was no press conference. President Trump just went home and he never talked to them again. So President Trump is different than other administrations. We're not going to be thinking logically here. We can try to do what we did with other presidents and push them step by step, but he can also change his mind very quickly. And that is the question about what happens when he meets with Europe and Zelensky in Washington.
Yeah, I don't know you saw this or not, but I really need to show you this. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, it's a horrible thing. This is American M112 vehicle with both Russia and US flags, and it's heading to attack Ukrainians. In 2022, I don't mind. I don't expect it. And now here's a final great meeting. Trump and Putin. Russia used this and just smiling and try to attack. And I don't know what I need to say about this.
This will be brought up. It's already. I was on several Zooms today, and different Americans were bringing this up to me. Did you see this? What does this mean? This is how Russia has dominated everything since Alaska. Russia controlled what was happening to the media in Alaska. Russia was dominant on Saturday and Sunday, telling everybody what happened in Alaska, their version, before Marco Rubio spoke, before Steve Witkoff spoke. Russia has been pushing the narrative. And so this is an example of them controlling the message online to show that America and Russia will be going together in the future. I think what needs to happen is that President Trump needs to do what he has done in other times, whether that was Syria in his first administration, whether that's Iran. We were all told that President Trump is stepping away from Israel. He's not happy with Israel. And all of a sudden, he changed his mind very quickly and bombed Iran. He's not going to bomb Russia, but he can he can cut off every bank in Russia right now from the SWIFT system. They can do major damage on international oil sales. There's a lot more that can be done. In fact, the person who did sanctions for President Trump in the first administration said, we're not even doing half of what we can do. We can do things very quickly in just 1 week to put some pressure on it, as well as some cyber issues. We just this week, we learned that Russia hacked the federal judiciary system and got a lot of sensitive information about people's legal records here in the United States. Where's the response from the United States? There's many things that the United States still hasn't done. And I think that Trump doesn't like long. This is why he doesn't like the Ukraine conflict. It's long. It has a lot of moving parts. He has to get involved for a long time. If you give President Trump a solution that's 1 day, like Iran, like a cyber attack against Russia, successfully done, Trump likes that.
Yeah. So, Andriy, I hope everything ends well. Thank you. And it was great seeing you. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you. Until next time.